The surge in visa rejections this year, costing travelers over 136 crore rupees, isn't just about bureaucracy. It's a symptom of something deeper, a shift in how an entire nation's citizens are being received abroad. Beyond the lost money lies a growing pattern of obstacles, from denied entry to public humiliation, even differential treatment at hotels. It's not one isolated story or one biased border agent.
Don't get fooled by the label. Subscribe now to uncover what's really behind your favorite brands, and get the truth Big Food doesn't want you to see.
It's a widening global reaction, shaped by years of perception, policy, and mutual suspicion. This growing scrutiny is no longer confined to official processes. It seeps into everyday travel experiences, creating a climate of discomfort and rejection for people who once moved freely. The reasons are layered and uncomfortable, part individual behavior, part systemic reaction. Some of it stems from recurring visa violations and a growing list of immigration breaches. Some comes from reciprocal treatment policies, where countries respond to how their own citizens are treated elsewhere. And some of it, undeniably, is tied to negative stereotypes reinforced by visible incidents abroad. But this issue stretches beyond individual accountability. As other countries have shown, transforming global perception demands coordinated government strategies, cultural diplomacy, and traveler awareness. Without those layers working together, mobility declines, economic losses mount, and global trust erodes, one rejected application at a time. Why are Indian tourists suddenly under the global microscope, facing more visa rejections, discriminatory treatment, and systemic barriers like never before? The numbers aren't subtle, and the message is even louder. Indian travelers lost over 136 Indian rupees crore in 2024 alone due to skyrocketing visa rejections. That's not just money gone, it's mobility denied, dignity questioned, and a global reputation dented. Across embassies, Indian passports are hitting roadblocks that didn't exist just a few years ago. Visa officers in Western Europe, North America, and parts of Asia are increasingly slapping on rejection stamps, and while they may cite documentation issues, the scale of denial points to something bigger, something systemic. These aren't isolated events. This is a pattern, and it's costing not just families and tourists, but India's global standing. But the scrutiny doesn't stop at borders. Once they do make it in, many Indian travelers are confronting something worse, discrimination that isn't subtle. Hotel chains, particularly in parts of Southeast Asia and the Middle East, are reportedly downgrading service quality for Indian guests. There have been numerous reports of different pricing, denial of amenities, and public confrontations that turn demeaning fast. Public spaces, too, whether it's tourist attractions or public transport, often become settings where Indian travelers are treated as burdens or second-class visitors. Why is this happening now? The reality is layered. On the surface, individual misconduct by some travelers has made headlines. Rowdy behavior, disrespect for local customs, and disregard for rules. Social media has amplified every misstep. And in an age of virality, a few videos from beaches in Thailand or temples in Bali go a long way in painting a damaging picture. But to pin it all on individual behavior would be a mistake. The deeper rot is systemic. Immigration violations and overstay issues have strained diplomatic patience. Some countries have flagged a rising number of Indian passport holders who enter on tourist visas, but disappear into informal workforces. These patterns force host countries to tighten policies, scrutinize every applicant, and raise rejection rates to manage risk. It's no longer about an individual's plans. It's about collective trends, and India's profile is under siege. Then there's the principle of reciprocity. Indian visa policies have often been criticized as rigid, slow, and uninviting. Western countries, especially in Europe, have used this imbalance as a reason to return the favor. If you make it harder for our citizens, we'll do the same. That tit-for-tat approach is playing out in real time, and Indian tourists are paying the price. But this problem is far from unique. Other nations have faced similar PR nightmares and have pulled themselves out. China and South Korea offer strong blueprints. Faced with increasing global backlash years ago, both governments didn't shrug it off. They launched full-scale cultural diplomacy campaigns. Chinese authorities ran behavioral etiquette programs for outbound travelers. South Korea invested heavily in showcasing its cultural strengths, from music to hospitality, and they paired these efforts with serious policy shifts that improved how their citizens were received globally. The result? A gradual but noticeable shift in perception. India needs to pay attention. If we want to reverse this trend, relying solely on individual change won't cut it. We need systemic reforms, starting with government-backed initiatives to educate travelers on cultural sensitivity, local etiquette, and sustainable practices. This isn't about being polite. It's about survival in a world that's losing patience. We need reforms in visa negotiations. 2. A more welcoming visa policy in India can open doors abroad. Reciprocity works both ways. Indian embassies and tourism boards must step up. Public campaigns, soft diplomacy, and rapid policy improvements are critical. The alternative? Continued global embarrassment and economic loss. And let's not ignore the financial damage. Visa rejections aren't just inconvenient, they're expensive. Each rejected application burns money in processing fees, travel planning, and lost opportunities. 136 Indian rupees crore in 1 year is staggering. It's more than a statistic, it's a warning. But here's where the conversation expands. This is not just about India's global image. It's about how cities and sectors are responding to the post-pandemic reality. Let's shift the lens to Las Vegas. The City of Lights is undergoing a transformation that's both economic and urban. Beyond the casinos and entertainment billboards, Vegas is building. High-speed rail connections are on the rise. Luxury developments are multiplying. It's not just about tourism anymore. It's about economic diversification. The city is pouring resources into infrastructure, smart technologies, and long-term planning. Vegas is evolving from a gambling hub into a full-scale urban powerhouse. And that matters because cities like Vegas are the first point of contact for global tourists. Their evolution reflects broader shifts in how urban centers adapt to rising costs, changing consumer behavior, and international scrutiny. Now, while Vegas invests and expands, the U.S. aviation industry is cracking under pressure. The ongoing government shutdown has become a slow-moving disaster. Airport workers are unpaid, flights are delayed, operations are crumbling, and the consequences are serious. Safety is no longer guaranteed. Trust is eroding. Economic stability is under threat. This isn't just a bureaucratic hiccup. It's a systemic failure, a breakdown that exposes how fragile essential infrastructure has become in the United States. From air traffic controllers to TSA agents, essential workers are being stretched to the limit without compensation. Delays and cancellations have spiked. Passengers are stranded, and confidence in the aviation system is hitting rock bottom. What does this all mean for global mobility? It means the world is shifting, and not in subtle ways. Travelers, whether from India or elsewhere, are caught between governments that can't coordinate, immigration systems that overreact, and tourism industries that demand behavior they rarely nurture. If India wants its citizens to travel freely, be treated fairly, and be seen respectfully, it needs to act fast. Systemic policy change, behavioral education, cultural diplomacy. This is not a crisis of one bad traveler. It's a national challenge. The world is watching, and the consequences are already here. India can learn, reform, and recover, but it won't happen unless responsibility is shared. From the government to the individual, from airports to embassies. And the lesson from Las Vegas? Cities that plan, invest, and transform can reinvent themselves. Vegas is no longer relying solely on the roulette wheel. It's building a future. So should India. And the warning from U.S. aviation? Neglect breeds collapse. When critical systems are politicized and workers are left hanging, the system breaks. And once trust is lost, it's hard to rebuild. The path forward is clear. Policy reforms, responsible tourism, urban resilience. This isn't optional. It's essential. If this breakdown of global mobility, national image, and urban transformation matters to you, make your voice heard. Like the video, share with others who care. Leave a comment below on your own experiences, and subscribe for more deep dives like this. We've already seen the financial losses, the rejection rates, and humiliations faced by Indian travelers abroad. But here's the deeper cut. Every visa rejection, every discriminatory incident, and every headline mocking a tourist incident adds another crack to India's global image. It chips away at the reputation of over 1 billion people, most of whom are simply trying to explore the world, reunite with family, or attend business and academic events. And yet, the international message is loud. We don't trust you. The blame, as always, is spread across multiple fronts. Some of it does stem from individual behavior. The handful of high-profile incidents, tourists littering sacred sites, being rude to hotel staff, disregarding local laws, have gone viral across global social media. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram have made sure that one loud, disrespectful act by one Indian tourist becomes a generalized indictment of all Indian tourists. That is a curse of the algorithm. Nuance dies, stereotypes live. But let's not kid ourselves. This is not just about bad influencers or road travelers. The systemic rot runs deeper. India's immigration and travel policies have failed to evolve in lockstep with growing global ambitions. The country wants to be taken seriously on the world stage. It wants soft power, global influence, and economic muscle. But its travel diplomacy is still stuck in the past. Bureaucratic bottlenecks, outdated reciprocity terms, and protectionist visa policies have created a diplomatic environment where other countries feel no obligation to welcome Indian travelers with open arms. And many now don't. Meanwhile, the average Indian traveler is caught in the middle, paying higher fees, going through grueling visa interviews, and often getting rejected without explanation. There's no appeal, no refund, just rejection. Now think about what this does at scale. When you have hundreds of thousands of such experiences, year after year, you're not just talking about disappointed families. You're talking about national dignity under quiet assault. Over 136 Indian rupees crore lost in just 1 year on failed visa applications. That's money flushed down a diplomatic drain. Resources wasted not on travel, but on bureaucracy. This isn't sustainable. And it's not just inconvenient. It's damaging. Meanwhile, the world has changed. Countries are being more selective. Not just about whom they let in, but how they treat people once they're in. And that brings us to another ugly truth. Even when Indian travelers do manage to secure visas, pass border control, and step into foreign lands, they often aren't treated equally. This is especially visible in hospitality and public services. Reports have surged in recent years of Indian tourists being given substandard rooms, having amenities restricted, or being addressed with patronizing tones by staff in hotels across Southeast Asia, Europe, and even parts of the Middle East. And these aren't luxury versus budget issues. This is about visible racial or cultural bias. Tourists from Western countries walk in and get smiles. Indians walk in and get suspicion. Public spaces don't fare much better. There's a trend, ugly, growing, and unchecked, of treating Indian tourists as less desirable. Sometimes it's outright hostility. Sometimes it's exclusion masked as policy. Sometimes it's nothing more than a smirk, a shrug, a delay. But each incident leaves a mark, and they accumulate fast. Now ask yourself, how long can this continue before it begins to reshape India's global stature? Not as an economic force or IT hub, but as a nation that can't move freely in the world? There's a way forward, but it will require a coordinated, aggressive shift in how India approaches global travel, both in policy and perception. China and South Korea have shown the way. When their travelers faced rising hostility abroad, they didn't sit back. Their governments responded with multi-tiered strategies, education campaigns at home, bilateral pressure abroad, and a major push to promote their cultural identities in a positive light. China ran traveler education programs in airports and online. South Korea funded global campaigns showcasing Korean culture, responsibility, and respect. Both nations pushed hard in diplomatic circles to ease visa restrictions and improve access. The result? Measurable improvements in the global treatment of their citizens. India needs to replicate that with urgency and scale. First, cultural education. The government must launch massive campaigns aimed at outbound travelers, particularly first-time tourists, to educate them on local customs, basic etiquette, and laws. This isn't about shame, it's about empowerment. Knowledge is the first step to respect. Second, policy reforms. India must reassess its own visa policies and begin negotiating reciprocal agreements that restore balance. If Indian citizens face high rejection rates and harsh interviews in Europe, India must reconsider how it treats European applicants. Reciprocity works when it's enforced, not when it's ignored. Third, diplomatic engagement. Indian embassies and consulates need to move beyond passport stamping. They should become centers of cultural diplomacy, advocating for Indian citizens abroad, promoting India's heritage, and defending the rights of travelers who are unfairly treated. Fourth, support systems. There must be faster grievance redressal mechanisms for Indian citizens abroad who face discrimination. This includes legal assistance, consular support, and most importantly, data collection to track and report systemic mistreatment by foreign service providers. But even if all of that happens, change won't come overnight. It will take years of consistent work to rebuild what has been eroded. And in that time, India risks losing not just its travel credibility, but its soft power potential. Tourism is not just a luxury. It's a projection of national identity. When Indian tourists are respected abroad, India is respected. When they're not, it isn't just a traveler who suffers. The nation does too. Meanwhile, other parts of the world are facing their own versions of upheaval. Let's go back to Las Vegas, the American icon of leisure, decadence, and excess. The city that once ran purely on casinos and concerts is undergoing a transformation, facing rising costs, changing travel preferences, and the long shadow of the pandemic. Las Vegas is rewriting its future. High-speed rail projects are underway. Urban redevelopment zones are drawing tech investment. Luxury condos are rising in what were once barren parts of town. Vegas is no longer just a party. It's a pivot point, a model for how cities can evolve when they choose reinvention over stagnation. It's a lesson Indian cities, especially tourism hubs like Goa, Jaipur, and Rishikesh, could study closely. Diversification, infrastructure investment, and sustainable urban planning aren't luxuries. They are a requirement for survival in the 21st century travel economy. And while Vegas builds, America's aviation industry is collapsing, dragged down by internal dysfunction, political paralysis, and labor neglect. The ongoing government shutdown has exposed systemic weaknesses that the flying public now pays for, literally and figuratively. Flight delays, safety risks, unpaid workers, and operational chaos have become the norm. And here's the worst part. There is no immediate fix. The shutdown's ripple effects are spreading from airports to airlines to international travel confidence. People no longer feel safe. And when trust breaks in an infrastructure system, especially aviation, it's hard to recover. India should take note, because a breakdown in tourism isn't always caused by foreign discrimination or visa policies. Sometimes it starts at home, with weak systems, ignored reforms, and complacency. If there's one thread that ties all of this together, it's this: mobility, whether it's people, cities, or planes, depends on systems that are respected, resilient, and responsible. When that breaks, consequences follow fast. So here's where it all leads. India's travel credibility is under attack. Visa rejection rates are spiking. Discrimination is rising. Financial losses are mounting. The global image is cracking. But the solution is not hopeless. It starts with accountability, honesty, and strategy from the government, from institutions, and from every traveler stepping on a plane. And if we care about restoring India's dignity abroad, about building cities that thrive like Vegas is doing, and about avoiding aviation collapses like the one we're witnessing in the U.S., then we need action. Not next year. Now. Let's be absolutely clear. This isn't just a tourism issue anymore. It's a national credibility crisis. When Indian travelers are seen as problematic, when they're denied access, humiliated in public spaces, and filtered out by systems that should be fair, that reflects back on the country. And right now, that reflection isn't flattering. We've reached a tipping point. India is one of the fastest growing outbound tourism markets in the world. That should mean more respect, smoother access, and stronger influence. Instead, it's brought more suspicion, more red tape, and more headlines questioning Indian behavior abroad. That disconnect is unacceptable. No country with global ambitions can afford this kind of reputational deficit. And yet, it's being allowed to fester. Every time an embassy shuts its doors to Indian applicants en masse, every time a traveler is mocked online for not knowing local customs, every time a hotel hands over the worst room to an Indian guest while charging the same price, it chips away at something bigger than just vacation plans. It chips away at pride. It chips away at equality. It chips away at India's standing in the world. Let's not forget, this isn't the 1990s anymore. India isn't begging for international relevance. It's a major power, a key trade partner, a tech powerhouse, and a diplomatic player. But none of that matters if the average Indian traveler can't even get a fair shake at a border checkpoint or a hotel reception desk. The responsibility here is shared, and it's urgent. The Indian government can no longer pretend this is a minor inconvenience. This is a foreign policy issue, a domestic education issue, a structural reform issue. Diplomatic inertia must end. Cultural diplomacy must begin not in boardrooms, but on the ground where it actually matters. And individual travelers? Yes, they too hold power. Every respectful interaction, every moment of cultural understanding, every small act of environmental responsibility abroad, they all count. They all push back against the tide of suspicion. Because right now, the global message is clear. We don't trust you to travel responsibly. And India needs to change that message urgently and permanently. Meanwhile, cities like Las Vegas are moving forward, writing new chapters for themselves, transforming through infrastructure, technology, and diversification. The U.S. aviation sector, on the other hand, is disintegrating under political gridlock, exposing just how fragile even the most powerful systems can be when leadership collapses. That's the crossroads we're all at. Will India confront this moment with courage and clarity? Will policymakers act? Will embassies defend? Will citizens step up? Or will we let the world continue to close its gates, raise its walls, and point its finger? If you've felt this, if you've seen the change, been rejected, been mistreated, or even been embarrassed by how fellow citizens have behaved abroad, say something, like this video. Share it widely, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so this conversation doesn't fade. We don't fix global respect by staying silent. We fix it by showing the world what India really stands for.